Yes. Let's let everyone enter the room slowly and we'll begin. Welcome. How's everybody doing? We're good. All right, so as we're all entering, I think we all should just take a collective breath. It has been a very intense 24 hours, a few weeks, months leading up to this moment. So I just want us to all grant ourselves the gift of a breath. So, and thank you all for being here. You have taken this evening to invest in your personal pleasure. And tonight is so much more than traditional pleasure, what we think of it as. It's a night to be interconnected, to think mind, body, soul. And I'm just so honored to be here tonight. And this is the first event of this sort that we've ever done at Lovers. So I'm truly so excited. We have 5 brilliant thought leaders in the space representing different parts of holistic pleasure, from spirituality to sex education to all the things on the spectrum that you could possibly want. So I'm so, so grateful to have everybody here tonight. And we found it important enough, this conversation around holistic pleasure, to dedicate an hour and a half to it. So thank you all for being here. And so if you're also here for the entire time, we're having a grand prize at the end, and we're so excited. We have products from Lovers, Womanizer, Kush Queen, and a hoodie from Goody, who's one of our panelists tonight, which I'm very excited about, so you're automatically entered to win once you are here throughout the evening, and we'll announce the winner at the end. So if you have any questions throughout the night, we'll be checking the chat box. So please enter your questions. You'll be on mute, unfortunately. And if you have any questions, we'll answer them. And we have our own questions, so hopefully those will answer yours as well. So without further ado, we have our 5 amazing panelists tonight. Yes! I don't hear your voices, but we're excited to be here. Yes, thank you, Colin. I need some motivation. I'm Missy Modell. I'm here on behalf of Lovers. I'm so excited. I personally so needed tonight. I will reiterate again. So thank you for being here. So we brought this group together. We have Goody Howard, who is a sexologist, educator, and consultant. Goody?
Yes.
You're amazing. Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Hello, we have Colin, who is the founder of Queer Cosmos and an astrologer, and I'm going to get a reading with him after this, so I'm so excited.
Yes,
Hello,
I would love
Colin.
that. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
And we have Evian Whitney, who's a sexuality doula and a sex educator.
Hi, so happy to be here.
And we have Tiff from Kush Queen, CMO of
Thanks
Kush
for
Queen.
having me.
So excited. We have your bath bomb. I have your bath bomb waiting for me in the bathroom. Very excited about it. And then we have Katie from Womanizer. Yes, I'm so excited. Hi, Katie.
Hi, everybody. Really happy to be here and happy to be on this panel with such amazing panelists. I'm so excited.
Yes, this is such a needed evening. So I think we'll just jump into it, if that's okay with everybody. We'll just get rolling. So I'm going to point this to different people, but this is a question for the whole group. This is meant to be an interactive conversation. So Goody, we're going to start off with you. Hi.
Hi.
So from your unique perspective and the areas you work in, can you tell us why pleasure is important and why it's important to have a holistic view of it, this kind of multidimensional look at pleasure? And it's not just about sex. It's so much more than that.
Yeah. I think pleasure, when we talk about pleasure, I think when people hear the word pleasure, we're focused on the sexual aspect. When it kind of rings for us, it's like dog whistling to sexual pleasure. But it's important just to enjoy non-sexual pleasure as well, because holistically, I'm very big on sensuality versus sexuality. So sensuality is experiencing non-sexual pleasure through all 5 of your senses, right? You know, sound, sight, taste, texture, all of it, right? So when you live sensually, then when you experience sex, you'll experience sex through all 5 of your senses. So you'll get sexual pleasure through all 5 of your senses, and it adds layers of pleasure to your experiences. And I think specifically in the year 2020, hon, we have got to connect to our pleasure as just a form of resistance, as a form of normalcy, as a form of self-care, as just a way to just build ourselves back up in a year that has been beating people over the heads. So I think when we talk about pleasure, it's multi-layered, it's multifaceted. Pleasure, you get more pleasure when you're not having sex. And even within a sexual context, I think that I always talk about a road trip analogy, right? So we gamify sex as we focus on the orgasm. So it's like a watched pot or a road trip, that if the destination is the orgasm and you're on a boring ass road trip, it's like no snacks, no jokes, no music. You're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Right? Because you're so focused on the destination. You're like, are we there yet? But if you have a fun trip, you got jokes, snacks, music, you know, costumes, Instagram, whatever. You have such a good time on the journey that the destination just kind of pops up on you like, oh, we're here already, right? And so when you look at sex in that way, the pleasure is the journey, whereas the orgasm is the destination. So if you enjoy the journey, the orgasm, the destination is just the cherry on top. And I think that we don't experience pleasure holistically in its totality and savor it just kind of, you know, for what it can be, because we're so focused on the end game. And so this is a time specifically we're all at home more, you know, there's so many things going on in the world. I think for me, I think pleasure is just the way we resist and the way we cope.
Yes, I want just all those words on my wall at all times, because I wanted just to go back for one quick second, because holistic pleasure is mind, body, soul. Yes. It is this interconnected, empowering thing that we all need, and sometimes don't know how to ask for it or don't know that we need it. So I just wanted to level set for a second, because I kind of went right into it, but goody, you literally just nailed the definition. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So yeah, just bouncing off of Goody, does anybody else want something to add about how this holistic pleasure is so important, and it's rather than looking at it from one dimension, but what does it mean to you?
I'll say something if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I think that they're exactly following Goody. There are so many layers to pleasure, and so much of the time we focus on an endpoint and we focus on solely sexual pleasure. But when you think about what pleasure brings, and when you think about what it means for you to feel good and then feel comfortable about talking about what makes you feel good and telling other people, you actually can start to grow a community and get closer to other people. And I find when you bring all these people together and you're all comfortable talking about what makes you feel good and talking about pleasure, the connection grows. You feel closer to one another. It's like community connection is the most underrated part about pleasure. And at the end of the day, it's considered your overall wellness. If it's a pillar in your overall wellness, and then suddenly you've got community, you've got this fun journey you're on, just like the orgasm is the cherry on top. And, you know, if you think about it, about how it impacts your entire life, you don't see it as just the end game, which is really important.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And also the idea of finishing means the journey has concluded, where I like to think of it as an evolution, that with each experience, it is a continuation of the prior one. So I just wanted to add that thing in as well. Cool. If there's anything else anyone wants to add on that, that was beautiful. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, I think the concept of community that you just brought up is really important right now, especially like Goody mentioned, you know, we are living in 2020, enough said. At Kush Queen, we focus a lot on making pleasure a part of your wellness toolkit. So when you're thinking about your mental and your physical pleasure and wellness, that is so important in your self-care. And we like to take that idea and take it a step further and think about community. So when we're feeling well, we're feeling fulfilled, you know, sexually or just from a well-being standpoint, we can then look outward and think about the people in our community. So if you've created a safe space and you have community, you're feeling good, you're more likely to reach out to others and engage in that conversation and maybe ask them, you know, how their wellness is and how they may be seeking pleasure, or invite them into some form of pleasure that you enjoy, you know, just from a friendly standpoint. So I think all of those points about the destination, about focusing on yourself and building a community is holistic pleasure, and can be so much more than, you know, the typical stereotypes of what pleasure, you know, is kind of taught to us as.
Yeah, I wanted to add something because I know that within the work that I do, a lot of people feel really hung up on that word pleasure. I think because it has such a lofty connotation of sex, orgasm, sexy time with someone else. And sometimes people aren't able to differentiate between like pleasure in a platonic sense versus pleasure in a sexual sense. And so I like, if you know, if the word pleasure is too lofty, if it's too much, I like to just invite for folks to think about what makes them feel good, because I think we all have a sense of and an understanding of what that is without it being sexualized or stigmatized in the way that pleasure is. And so I love what Goody is talking about in terms of sensual pleasure. It's something that I practice constantly. I mean, it's not even just about making myself feel good. It's also about just like coming into my body and remembering that me in this body can be a very pleasurable experience if I give myself that permission to feed my senses, to seek the pleasure or the things that would make my body feel good. And so one practice that I love to just offer for folks who want to explore pleasure or feeling good without that, you know, that loftiness feeling that can come up if we're talking about it outside of sex, is just like ask yourself throughout the day. You can put it on a post-it note even, and like put it on a mirror or whatever. Ask yourself, what do I need in this moment to feel good? And like that one question is so simple, but like the moment that you answer it, it's like, I need a drink of water. Like that would make me feel good. Or I need to put take my shoes off, or I need to like unbutton my pants. You know, like there are so many different layers of what our bodies need to feel good that doesn't have to look like these grand gestures of sitting in a bubble bath and lighting candles and stuff like that, which is great. But I really want to stress that pleasure and feeling good in your body is our birthright. And that's something that we can access at any time. We just have to be the ones to seek it out and liberate it within ourselves.
That was so beautifully said. And it almost makes me think like there are things within ourselves that can block us from larger levels of pleasure. Like the act of taking a water could block something down the line in terms of experiences. So like even unlocking that initial instinct is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting like literate with what makes you feel good, you know, because this is a language. And also like what's really beautiful about this is that once you become more familiar with feeling good in platonic land, you can carry that information into your sexual relationships and your sexual experiences. I mean, it's a language that you have to be fluent in if you want to have the best sex of your life. And, you know, we do ourselves a great disservice by saying pleasure can only be accessed within the sexual. So we have to be the ones to seek it out and like make it a priority.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. And Colin, I know that this must relate somewhat to astrology.
You already know. You could
just
see
a little
my
bit.
eyes, like,
Mhm.
there's so many connections here. Yeah, so I'm an astrologer. I don't want to lose people with like advanced astrological information. So what I'll just say is there's a full moon in Aries tomorrow at 5:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. And I am of the Western evolutionary astrological point of view that says the universe was born in an expression of desire as the first sign in astrology. And so the fact that we're having these conversations right now means that we're asked to bring that level of how can I see my desire and pleasure as my life force? Because Aries introduces the zodiac. It's the Big Bang, the commencing through the great fires of the cardinal initiation. And I think too, what we want to remember is echoing what everyone has said, it's an evolutionary progress. Like we bring the spark of Aries to Taurus, to Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and then every zodiac sign stands in that question of where does Virgo find pleasure? Where does Aquarius find pleasure? Capricorn, Leo, and then we get to the end, the magnum opus, and we start all over again. And I think the practical takeaway that I would have is for the full moon in Aries tomorrow, I think we're going to want to ask ourselves, how can I safeguard my emotional autonomy to recognize what I want rather than what the external systems of oppression, capitalism, white supremacy, patriarchy, and all the isms tell me this is what I want. Tell me this is what my compliance is. And what is my internal GPS telling me? And how do I let the universe dream through me and desire through me based on my astrology?
Mike's drop. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, mind blown.
Okay.
We're here for it. Colin. Yeah.
After each of you speak, I'm just like, okay.
That's how I
Second,
felt. I was like,
like
I do not want to follow that, but I was like,
No, but this is what's so amazing about this conversation. We all come from such different places, but it's this ecosystem of pleasure, because that's what it is. It's not just one thing. We're all parts of a whole. So just going off of that and even rewinding a bit, and Colin, I'm going to throw this to you first. So as we evolve and get older, our definition of pleasure obviously changes. So what is something you would tell your younger self about pleasure?
ooh, great question. So because I am a 31-year-old gay man, I would have told my younger self to try your best not to create the connection between desire, pleasure, and danger. Because I've yet to find it. If you know of any researchers or psychologists that have specialized this, I believe that there is something that young queer people experience almost like a traumatic, when they come out of the closet, like a post-traumatic stress disorder of, if I out myself as wanting and desire and pleasure, I'm placing myself in significant visibility for danger. And I think what I would tell my younger self is, remember that your desire is your life force. It will place you in vulnerable positions, but you will be protected. And how can you, for the rest of your life, detangle danger and desire and do that work shoulder to shoulder with people who are asking themselves the same question?
Wow.
Yeah.
I really relate to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
think
for
we all,
sharing.
yeah, we all have those ways, right? Because of the ways in which pleasure is guilty, because of those external systems of oppression and people who occupy multiple systems that are just disproportionately disadvantaged against from those oppression systems. And why do we complicate desire and danger so much? So I would just tell my younger self, do your best not to conflate that and stand in your autonomy and know that this is your radiance and power. You have nothing to feel like you're embarrassed or in danger with.
Wow. Because it almost doesn't become about you at that point. It's like external validation or just seeking something outside of yourself versus focusing on what you want.
And that's why I love Sonia Renee Taylor's My Body Is Not Apology, because she love her. Scorpio with a Cancer moon. I know her chart off the top of my head.
Everybody gets it.
When we have anything that's extrinsically or externally defined by value and pleasure, we're climbing a ladder that we don't need to climb. It's my birthright. And you're right, Ben, and I don't need to make it about anything else other than my own choice. So yeah, great question.
Thank you. Yeah, Goody, I saw you resonating with that. Do you have something to add? You felt that.
I had to unmute my, like, so Sonia Renee Taylor, like, is amazing. And so The Body Is Not an Apology is a whole Bible for me, right? So I think what we was talking about, like the multiple layers of oppression and things like that, when we talk about, like, so the book I'm working on is called Science and Ho Shit. I'm not done, but Science and Ho Shit, right? Follow me. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we got food, water, shelter, orgasms in parentheses. But at the top of that pyramid with self-actualization is where the orgasms bring you that self-awareness and that, you know, like the confidence that permeates every other aspect of your life, with the ability to bring yourself, your own orgasms, and connect in different ways on different levels. And so when you're dealing with multiple levels of oppression, systemically, specifically, you don't have time. You're in thrive mode. You're at the bottom of the pyramid. You don't have time to get to this top part up here, even though it's something so close. Pleasure is in the bottom part of the pyramid. You're focused on food, water, shelter, and the pleasure is just, it's something that you don't feel like you have time for, because you got to focus on the things over here. And so it doesn't even get you to that self-actualization at the top, because it seems out of reach. It's not, that's a luxury that I don't have time for. And again, it's not even like Evian was saying, it's not even like a sexual pleasure. It's like, oh, I don't have time to, or I don't have the money to buy that dress I really like, or I don't have time to eat at that restaurant that has that amazing vegan food down the street, or I don't have time for that. I got bills, right? So when you think about the way we put pressure on ourselves to maintain these external levels of existence, and then we don't even make space to breathe in that pleasure in non-sexual ways, in holistic ways, that just, it just, like, y'all see my shirt, it says generational curse breaker. Like, it resonated with me. Like,
That's incredible. Yeah. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? Katie or Anything
I
on
think that just, what comes to mind, I can relate to what Colin said, as an LGBTQ plus person growing up in the South, it's almost like I was looking for permission, as a younger self to acknowledge that this is something that I find pleasurable. And like Goody was mentioning, I never even got to that point. I never imagined, this is what my wedding could be like. This is what my family could be like from that oppression. And really telling my younger self, your pleasure can be anything. You don't need someone else's permission to say this can be pleasure and this cannot be pleasure. It's about finding that freedom and that birthright of what is pleasure. It can be anything. But, as a 33-year-old person, I'm still finding myself, even living now on the West Coast. I'm married. I have a beautiful life. I still don't come to these conclusions that would seem so natural to me as a form of pleasure because of, the deep-seated oppression or denial to my own pleasure, in everyday life, which is something that, sometimes just hits you like a ton of bricks. And it's like, well, why don't I want this when it seems like everything leading up in your life should say, yes, this is exactly what you want. But you get to that pyramid and you're like, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen it, or I haven't always thought about it. So I think what we have to start building in young people is introducing these ideas and being more inclusive about all forms of pleasure from a young age. It doesn't have to be sexual pleasure. It can be strictly platonic pleasure or self-based pleasure. I just need to say I love being here and thank you, everyone. This is already turning out to be wonderful. So excited.
Thank you so much. And I think that's actually a great segue because I have a question for Evian about the unlearning of pleasure. You had an incredible post about this that I personally found so poignant and important. So like this great unlearning of pleasure and what that means. So maybe you could speak a bit to that, because as are redefining it in this stage of our life and constantly defining it, how do we speak to the unlearning of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much gunk that gets caked on that makes it so that accessing your pleasure, or even being able to ask yourself the question that I offered earlier, like, what do I need in this moment to feel good? Like, just answering that question feels impossible, And as y'all have been talking, there's so many beautiful and brilliant minds here. Like, I've just been reflecting on the things that I've been thinking of throughout this time in quarantine, and how having so many things stripped down has been such a beautiful experience for me to be able to really kind of connect to my body in new ways and connect to my pleasure in new ways. And it's also bringing up a lot of stuff about the ways in which pleasure is difficult for me to connect to and the reasons why. And I know that for me, a lot of that stuff comes from just being indoctrinated and having people, places, things tell me that your pleasure is not good, or you do not trust the voice of desire, things like that, and for those of us who have felt that pleasure is dangerous or pleasure leads to danger in some way, I mean, it can be really alarming to even think about pleasure, even if it's in a context of non-sexual. I've had clients of mine who have been so deeply cut off from pleasure as a whole that they weren't even able to access it within their own sexual lives. So, I mean, this is like, as I just feel really compelled to bring this into the room, that as all of us are talking about pleasure here as, panelists on this panel, like, I know all of us have gone through an incredible journey of getting to this space where we are now. And for those on the outside looking in, it might seem like, oh, they've got it all figured out. But like, I too still struggle with being able to identify and heed the voice of desire and pleasure just in a regular context, and I think that it's really important to just like mention that and know that like, you're not alone, you're not broken, the system that has created this fuckery is broken, and it is our jobs to begin that unlearning. And I guess to answer your question, what that unlearning looks like is, for me, and I teach about this a lot within my work, like, I think in order for you to really begin to unlearn these things, you have to get to the root of what you learned. Like, it's not enough to say, I feel shame about pleasure. It's like, take it a step further. Where did that shame come from? What is behind that origin story of shame? Who taught you that shame? And what do you think that shame's purpose is? Like really getting very deep and interrogating what those shames are, what those blocks are. It's really, really uncomfortable because I know that we're in a society and a culture that wants to just be like, poof, okay, let me buy the lube, let me smoke that weed and pleasure will come. And I mean, like, listen, I've had some really, really good weed where it's just like, you know, I don't have to think about those things. But I think that if we want lasting liberation, if we want lasting connection with our bodies, if we want to be able to become fluent in the voices of our desires, our pleasures, just the fluent in the language of our own bodies, we have to get at the root of what's blocking us. And so just being curious about where those things come from, where those voices come from, why those voices are here, what we think that those voices are here to tell us. And yeah, I think that is a really, really good first step, because the moment that we can identify it is the moment that we can find our power to uproot it.
I think that's incredible. And also the stripping away in this really interesting time, like really provides an opportunity to be in your body and learn things that you've never been
really
able to
uncomfortable. I'm seeing so many people who are like, I am wanting to crawl out of my skin because I am being confronted with so many things. Like I'll just speak personally, like this whole experience of quarantine has been deeply beautiful and healing for me, but it's also been very hard because, as I said, having all of those things stripped away, I'm being confronted with the blockages, the demons in the closet, all of these old intergenerational traumas that have been coming up. And it's like, it's a beautiful thing to know, but it takes great, great courage to go in the direction of figuring out what that root is, you know? And so I like to tell people to start small, start curious. Like you don't have to jump right in there and get all of it out. I think it's going to take time, just as much time as it took for these limiting beliefs about pleasure in your body to calcify. It's going to like take as much time for those things to be uprooted, identified, and subverted and turned into something new. So I think we really just need to give ourselves lots of permission to be messy, lots of permission to not have all the answers, and just know that even just in asking that question, like, what do I need in this moment to feel good? And what in this moment is stopping me from feeling good? That is liberation in motion, just by asking that question and entertaining the idea of it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So important, because like, I don't know about everybody, but I don't have these conversations as much as I want to be. So thank you all again for having this space, because it's important. And we're all having these shared experiences and maybe not having the space to talk about it. Does anybody else feel connected to that question and want to jump in? Just how maybe you've unlearned a part of your past or something to deal with pleasure?
I do. Like I was saying with when Evian said the systems, right? The systems that have taught us the things that we need to unlearn. The system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, right? So what the beauty of this space is that I was raised to question everything. And when we question things and we realize that we have things to unlearn, and then like Evian said, take a step further and ask, okay, what is this about, or where is this coming from? We are dismantling those systems in our minds. And we as people, right? And we're talking about community and things like that. Once we start to dismantle that shit for ourselves, we then have these conversations with our friend groups and our communities and our families. Disrupting holidays, you know, Thanksgiving isn't going to be the same, but it's still an opportunity for you to help other people get to that liberation, like Evian said, right? When you question the systems that keep you oppressed, repressed, suppressed, and you question them, and you're like, oh wait, this system isn't even as big a bad wolf as I thought, right? I got that, right? Then you automatically have a unlearning, and you're erasing that systemic programming and socialization that is keeping you suppressed. So as a 5'5", 265-pound Black girl with diamonds on her teeth and usually with blue hair, right? People see that, and they don't see the multiple master's degrees and the business owner, and you know, they don't see that shit at all, right? And so for me, the body that I'm in, pleasure for a body like mine is not even a thing.
Mm.
You know, and so I had to question those things, and I'm perpetuating and projecting it on other fat girls. Like, why is she wearing that? Why is she? Hold up, screw. Wait, I am projecting my oppression onto somebody else to make myself feel better, because that's what the systems that we're socialized in is designed to teach us to do. When people say, you know, crabs in a basket, right? We forget about the fact that the natural habitat of the crab is not the basket. Okay, and so exactly what she was saying, it filled me up, because it's just like when we start to question and we start to unlearn, not only do we do it for ourselves, we do it for our peers, we do it for our families, we do it for the children that we have influence with. You don't have to be a parent to have influence with children, right? And when we talk to kids and future generations, we are planting seeds for trees that we are never going to sit under. And we are planting seeds for trees that grow and flourish and bloom in a way that the systems that taught us to shy away from that ostentatious and audacious presentation is going to be embraced and revered. You know what I'm saying? We may not see it in our lifetime, but it is coming. And I'm excited about it. So when she said systems, it just went like ding, 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 like.
Mm. Yes. That's all. No, and the idea that you don't have to wait until a certain age, because you talk about the birds and the bees when it's at a certain age, but the birds and the bees don't have to just be about sex. Like, that could be about pleasure and asking for what you need as a human, unrelated to sex. I don't know.
Pre-K sex ed, because I teach pre-K, I teach sex ed through the lifespan. Pre-K sex ed looks like autonomy. It looks like body parts. It looks like the proper language for body parts. It looks like boundaries. Pre-K sex ed is children pointing to a chart on how they want to be greeted that morning. If I want a fist bump or a high five or a hug or nothing, right? It's teaching those children that their no has power. It's teaching those children that the way they want to be addressed by adults has power, and they get to choose that autonomy. That's what sex ed at pre-K looks like. Sex ed at pre-K looks like some families have two mommies, and some families have two daddies, and some families have a mommy that used to be a daddy, and all of the things in between. And it's okay, because all families look different and deserve respect. So pre-K sex ed don't even talk about sex ed. You see what I'm saying? And then just like any other educational structure, we add to those skills as they become age appropriate. So it's not one conversation, it's a lifelong dialogue. I talk about sexually active seniors and, you know, kids trying to figure themselves out. And so just when potty training starts, little girls and little boys need to learn about each other's parts, because just because they know theirs doesn't mean they know the other child, like the child that doesn't look like them. And they need to be able to know those things. But that's what pre-K looks like. That's what sex ed pre-K looks like. And I think people get up in arms when we talk about the children. What about the children? Right? Because those systems that are designed to oppress us start early as hell, from the moment they say it's a girl. Right? So we have to, again, unlearn and reframe these systems that are keeping us down. And so we can't clutch our pearls when we think about sex ed for pre-K. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a 17-year-old and a 5-year-old in the same house, and sex ed and conversations with them looks real different. You know, but we have to be prepared for that. We have to understand and embrace it. And like Evian said, question where that shit comes from. When you're taken aback by it, question where your values are bumping up. Is it a matter of preference, or is it a matter of principle?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you, Giddy. That was amazing. Yes. And just going off of that for Katie and Tiff, coming from a product background and working at a company that really cares deeply about pleasure, how can society as a whole do better in dealing with pleasure, and specifically around this concept of holistic pleasure?
Yeah, I think we have to talk about it. Just like what Goody was saying about talking to children, building in those ideas of consent, and expanding everyone's vocabulary into what it can be. Even on our packaging, for example, we talk about solo play versus playing with a partner versus playing with partners. You know, and you guys do the same thing on your social media. You know, so many times people have these opportunities to bring in the concept of this can be an individual pleasure act, or this can be used with, you know, a couple or a group. And those systemic issues that are all deep-seated within some of us, we just glaze over that, or it was never even brought up to be more inclusive. So I think from a product making standpoint, just doing little things like on our lube, for example, writing in, this is great for solo play, or, try this with a partner, or how can you bring this into your group? That's important. That's the important work that we can do to be inclusive and to have, a product view of the same equivalent to having conversations with toddlers. I also have a toddler in my household, and having those conversations about your no has power. And if you ask me if I ask for a hug and you say no, I respect that. So just being more inclusive in every part of our life, I think, is our responsibility, or at least at Kush Queen, we feel like it's our responsibility to be inclusive and to think of, just because this is how I want to use something doesn't mean that's how someone else wants to use it. And I think that, everyone in the business world, especially in the product making world, should be thinking about those things.
Thank you.
I guess I'll chime in as well. At the end of the day, working in this industry, pleasure is why we wake up in the morning. It's what we think about. And unfortunately, sometimes you think about work while you experience pleasure. I think really when it comes down to it, what society can do differently is really improve the education. We've heard it from every single panelist that the value of education is invaluable. We spend so much time being dissociated from our pleasure, but also not having the tools or the coping mechanisms, or even something as simple as knowing your pleasure anatomy, how to accurately identify your pleasure anatomy. I think it still blows my mind. I guess to give background, Womanizer does premium pleasure products for vulva owners. And there are so many people out there that don't know the difference between vulva or vagina. And I mean, I'll throw it out there. We're being close, we're being honest. I didn't get close and impersonal with my vulva and getting to know all of my pleasure anatomy until I started working here. And I think it's such a shame that you don't understand your own pleasure anatomy and you don't know your own body. So beyond the education and learning about your own anatomy, you need to just get a mirror, get in there, see what's going on, spend the time, maybe read a few things if you have time. I know we have time. It's COVID. Where are you going? But if you really work harder on having that background information about your body, it's almost like by spending that time, you learn how to improve the rest of it all as well. And very slowly, everything else trickles in. I feel really privileged that I work where I do, and on the odd day, I spend hours and hours staring at vulvas to illustrate something, or maybe I'm taking a text that was written from our global office and considering, how can I write this so that the North American audience is well represented? How can I use this product as a way to empower people to talk about pleasure, to search about what makes them feel good, feel comfortable about talking about it, draw some things so people know how their pleasure anatomy works, and just it's giving the small tools. And if everybody spends the time to give the small tools and empower each other and empower themselves, tell themselves it's okay, you're valid, your pleasure is valid, your body is normal, then things will progress.
Yeah. And the word inclusive, I think, keeps coming up, and that's just important to address too. And I think it's inclusivity, not just with yourself, but with everybody, and making sure everybody, it's like a community approach to pleasure too. So thank you for that really thoughtful response. That was amazing. I just want to do a vibe check. How's everyone doing? Do we want to take a 2-minute water break? Are we feeling energized? What's the vibe for everybody? Are we feeling good?
Let's keep rolling.
Great. Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a sip of water if you don't mind.
It's your water, honey.
Got my water. Colin and I have decided we are well, we haven't decided, it's official. We have come from the same place geographically, so we are automatically connected.
Duh.
That is 100% accurate.
Long
This is
Island girls,
extremely accurate.
New Yorkers for life. If you got the, if
New
you know,
York is for life. If you know, you know. So now we're going to move on to more of direct questions. This was kind of and obviously everyone feel free to jump in too, but I'm going to target questions specifically for people, but everyone jump in if you have something to say as well. So Katie, I'm going to throw it back to you because I think it's a great just segue to what you were saying earlier. How does this permission to explore what brings us pleasure change our relationship to our bodies, ourselves, and our partners? This allowance.
Well, I think permission changes everything. At the end of the day, it's really up to you to give yourself the permission you need to explore what feels good and also to allow yourself to experience pleasure. I think that's really the first step. You have to take pleasure into your own hands, maybe literally, maybe figuratively. At the end of the day, for me, permission is getting over the barriers that you've either set up for yourself that you might have learned, or maybe external influences as well. It's not necessarily somebody else giving you pleasure. I don't think you need to rely on a partner or anybody else to give you that permission to give you pleasure. Once you identify what the barriers are and you work to uncloud them, you'll notice that that's how suddenly you'll feel connected to yourself, connected to other people, connected to your body, and then everything starts to fall into place. I think one of the first barriers, and very much so for myself, is that you need the permission to feel good no matter how you perceive yourself that day. So you might be facing something that in your life are creating physical changes. You might be going through emotional changes. There might be a complete life 360. I mean, it is 2020 after all. It could be something as simple as hormonal changes and suddenly you're dealing with a beard every day. It could be really tied to body image. You might not feel like today you meet the societal beauty standard and therefore you don't deserve pleasure or you don't deserve to receive pleasure. And then I feel as though we've spent so much of our lives being told we're not normal and we always focus on what makes us not normal. I've internalized it that I have really huge hands, but I don't. I put my hands next to my partner's, my hands are little baby hands. But it's just so simple to find those things that you've been taught that are so ingrained and they cloud everything that you do. So by identifying that you're normal, identifying that your needs are valid, and identifying that you do deserve pleasure, you can allow yourself the right to feel good, the right to explore, and then by that, give yourself the time to learn more and to explore more. I think that once you explore what pleasure means to you, then you can also get into the realm of self-pleasure and masturbation and having that guide you towards that extra level of appreciation. It's something that our brand focuses a lot on. We see pleasure and self-pleasure as part of your overall well-being. And then if you add that into your self-care, you start to appreciate your body, you learn about what makes it tick, and then you can also learn how to communicate that to others. And this kind of goes back to what other people have said too, but when you feel comfortable to communicate and express pleasure, then that also can impact and enhance the rest of your life. By talking about masturbation with my friends, I felt that we've been so much more comfortable. We empower each other, and now we talk about things that we would have never talked about ever in our lives. Or by talking about what I like and spending the time looking around down there and figuring out what I like, I've actually been able to take those steps and then communicate it to my partner. They're not supposed to know. You're supposed to tell them. It doesn't have to just be this guessing game. It can be this slow growth. And when you get over the communication hurdle and you prioritize pleasure, I don't know, everything else falls into place. And if there is one thing that I would want to say, and one thing that I care about and focus on in every day at my work, now in my home, is that if anybody's here because they're looking for permission to explore and are looking for permission to give themselves the right to experience pleasure, I mean, here it is.
Yeah.
You deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel great even. Just spend the time. You can do it.
Thanks, Katie. And also the idea of normal. I saw Goody made a brilliant point too. Just there is like normal. You're as normal. We're not. None of us are normal. We're normal in the idea that we're not normal. That's how normal we are. So thank you so much. Does anyone want to add to that? That was such a beautiful response. Thank you, Katie. Everyone feels great. Katie was very succinct. Okay, we're going to move right on. Moving right along. Colin. How can we use our spirituality or different systems like astrology as keys and tools in our evolution towards pleasure?
Ooh.
Aside from booking a session with you.
Right, hard-hitting questions. Well, I can only speak from the Western astrological point of view because certain spiritual systems all have different relationships to pleasure and to desire. But yeah, I think that we have a lot of energy in Aries right now. That spark that I mentioned, the expression of our life force through naming what we want and through pursuing what we want. And I think what astrology can do really beautifully is that, as I said, if our unique astrologies are the ways that the universe dreams through us, right? I think we can lean on astrology to ask the God of our understanding, the universe, whatever language we use, okay, this is what I want. And also, how do you dream through me? Because sometimes I might be a little clouded if it's based on that which the external systems of oppression and external value has defined what I need to be and want and do all this. So I'm going to give you, cosmic intelligence, the permission to enter into my thought system and direct me to the circumstances, situations, events, and relationships that serve the good, the true, and the beautiful for all people involved. Right? And I will also tell you that which I want as well. And if we can make that work, like maybe both end, 2 for the price of 1, BOGO style, right? But I think that's what astrology can do. And then as an astrologer, the responsibility and the beautiful honor of the work is that if I see somebody's natal chart to the best of my capability, I can ask you questions about your story of desire, about your story of pleasure, and say, how does this line up for you so far? Right? And I think there is something extraordinary about when a stranger accidentally validates the subconscious longings and inclinations that you have about desire and passion to go, how did he know that? There is no way, right? And if we can just have that symbol of confirmation, then it reminds me of what this extraordinary Gemini said to me once, and it has lived in my bones ever since. She said, Colin, you are not smart enough to think of your own dreams. Meaning that dream, desire, and pleasure was placed within me by a thought system and a power source beyond my own. And so if astrology can say, okay, these are these dreams, these are these desires, let's see how you can match to this story. Let's see how you can match to this pleasure principle, right? Then I think we can do really extraordinary work on the level of autonomy and on the level of liberation and justice, right? Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good by Adrienne Marie Brown is a wonderful example for us to use pleasure and joy as our liberatory principle, right? Because that's really what I think spirituality can do is let's unlearn those thought systems of fear, remember our birthright of pleasure and love, and let's fly at full wingspan and inspire other people to do the same.
Okay, so we're gonna have a book club after this, I think is what the consensus is. Okay,
Yes.
just gonna throw that out there. That
Same time next month.
Yeah, this is gonna be a monthly recurrence. Yes, thanks everyone. Okay, oh my God, you guys are amazing. All right, Tiff, we're gonna go to you. So.
All right.
Unless anyone wants to add anything to that.
I think
No.
Colin is in an area all of his own.
Yeah.
He is definitely, in a league of his own. So what's up,
I
Colin?
think you all are. All right, Tiff. So CBD is definitely another pioneer in pushing the boundaries in terms of like what's acceptable, breaking stigmas, smashing taboos in terms of self-care specifically. So how do you think that relates to pleasure?
Yeah, I love this question. And I think it goes back to everything that we've been sharing tonight. It's all about education and self-practice in what you believe is wellness and self-care, and those tools that you have access to, just like our notions of pleasure, those really should be based on the self. So for example, if you try CBD and it helps curb your anxiety, or it helps you get out of your mind and into your body before a pleasure event, then that's all you need to know. It doesn't need to be a taboo, and it doesn't need to be something that people question. So that's kind of my personal perspective of how it relates. And then education. There's so much we are taught in school and so much that we're not taught in school. So when we think about the science of why does CBD work? Why does it work within our bodies? Most people don't even know about your endocannabinoid system. That's a system that really helps you maintain homeostasis, and we should be nourishing it every day. And, shameless plug, you should be taking CBD every day to, nourish that system and regulate your body. But we don't even get to that conversation, and we don't even get to the conversation of, there's over 140 different cannabinoids that we have access to, or not necessarily access to, but that exist, that people are still learning about. So I think when we think about, is this a taboo thing? It's absolutely not a taboo thing if it works for you. Just like pleasure, it's whatever you want your self-care to be. For me, I absolutely believe in CBD as self-care and a wellness tool, and it can work in so many different ways. So I take it in a variety of ways and encourage people to really do your education and learn about your endocannabinoid system. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on at Kush Queen, is really bringing these two ideas together, that wellness can be fun and it can also be rooted in science. It doesn't have to be either or, just like pleasure. It doesn't have to be this thing or that thing, or, you picking and choosing it. It really can be all the things. And I think sometimes we shy away from it being all the things. And shout out to my mentor who is on tonight, Wendy. She sees that phrase all the time. And I kind of shied away from it, but it doesn't have to be. Pleasure can be all the things, just like your wellness, and using CBD as a tool for wellness can be all the things. It can be a tincture and it can be a bath bomb. Those are two things that give me pleasure every day, using a CBD tincture to start my day. And then, twice a week, bathing in a CBD bath bomb to really let my body fully decompress. So I think just like pleasure, you have to understand what works for you in your lens of wellness and self-care, and really do your education to, know what your body might need and how to nourish your endocannabinoid system. So
I love that answer. And I love that, again, it just speaks to the idea that pleasure is not just one thing. It is so much. Pleasure is taking a bath and feeling amazing. And that brings me more pleasure than maybe an orgasm would that day. It's kind of what Evian was saying, like listening to your body, what feels good in this moment, that's going to be a Post-it note above my desk going forward, because it's so important.
Yes,
yeah,
I love that
it's
too.
a powerful question, and it's like I'm a big like bite-sized baby steps type of person. Like I love being able to like distill all of this magical information that we're getting and put it into a question that we can engage with and ask ourselves like on a daily, hourly basis. And yeah, that's one of my favorite questions, and I invite for people to use that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to you actually for a question.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
So how do you work through mental blocks or resistance related to pleasure? We talked about unlearning things, but how do you, if there's like a block and you just can't get past it? I know there's so many tips and tricks, or just even prompts. Yeah. And this is probably a whole session that we would want to do with you too, but what do you think? What are some easy, tangible things that we can think about regarding this?
Well, I mean, I said before, being able to identify what that block is so powerful, because that way when you decide that you want to eradicate it, you'll know, okay, this is what I'm working with, this is what I can do. But one of my favorite things, and it's not easy, it's simple, but it's not easy, is to basically do the opposite of what that mental block is telling you to do. So like if you have a mental block about like pleasure, and pleasure for you might feel lofty, or maybe it's not something that you feel that you deserve to feel, or you prioritize everybody else's pleasure, but you know, maybe your pleasure doesn't come first. One of the best ways to move that and like shift that mental block is by doing the opposite, and beginning to create a new legacy and stretch new muscles of your reaction when it comes to those things. So that's why practice is so powerful. It's not because, you know, it's not just because you can get into this rhythm with it. It's also because you are literally unlearning. Like that's one of the ways that we unlearn is by learning something else. And so, yeah, that's one thing that I think about a lot. Like it's one thing to talk about it. And I mean, I'm in therapy. Therapy is great. And I think it's really good to explore those blocks. And I think it's really good to have someone help you as you are exploring those blocks. But sometimes you just need to do the thing. You just need to put action behind these new belief systems, these new stories that you want to embody. You know, it's not enough to think about it, talk about it, journal about it. You have to be about it. You got to live, you have to live it, you know? So I think that that is one great way to go about it. I think on a sort of micro level, because it's a little bit like, I don't know, that might feel a little bit too much. I think that anything that you can do where you are getting into your body is the best. So oftentimes when we're having these blockages, we're living in our heads. We have stories in our heads. We have anxieties. We have fears. Sometimes those things can absolutely show up physically within the body, but oftentimes they originate in our minds. Like our minds tend to drive our bodies and not the other way around. And I think anytime that we can bring presence to our bodies, remembering that you have a body first and foremost, because oftentimes we forget that we even have a body. Remembering to bring some tactile sensation to our bodies. I mean, these are like, you know, I'm touching myself right now as a way to remember I have a body. So yes, I might be thinking that my pleasure isn't important, or I might be cycling through all of these thoughts in my brain about what needs to be done or whatever. But if I can just root down into my body, if I can just feel my feet on the ground, if I can feel my ass sitting on a chair, if I can look around and see what I am seeing or hear what I am hearing, like those things can help bring a little bit more connection to the physical form, which I think is crucial if we're talking about pleasure, because we don't experience pleasure through our minds, we experience them through our bodies. And so if we're going to like start this new legacy of prioritizing our pleasure, it has to start with the body first.
This is incredible. Thank you so much. It's so true. Like, I think it's almost forcing, right? Would the opposite be not forcing it? Like sometimes you're so in it and you're like, come on, go to do it. And then it just doesn't work because there's friction and it's not organic.
Yeah. I mean, I love starting small. And I think that curiosity is a really good piece, bringing into the ways that you can get past those mental blocks. Like, okay, do you have enough awareness in this moment to ask yourself what those blocks are, where those blocks are coming from, if it feels accessible to you. If that feels like too much work to do, again, just if you have to, if your feet aren't on the ground, if you know you're not even breathing. One of my favorite questions to ask as a way to bring presence to the breath is, are you breathing? The moment that I ask that question, it's like I take in a deep breath and I'm like, oh yes, that's right, I am breathing. So like being able to do small things to help you come back into your body, I think is, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, it's medicinal, you know?
I love that. Someone just asked, can you expand on how we can do that mindfully?
Mindfully as,
interesting. For chronic pain or for breastfeeding, is there like mental exercises? That's a great question.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, it's hard, right? When you are experiencing chronic pain to really root into your body. And I'm so glad that question was asked, because I think it's really easy for me to talk about being in your body as though it's like, oh, it's so easy for me to be in our bodies, when people dissociate from their bodies, people have pain in their bodies, and it feels unsafe or it feels inhospitable to sink in and feel the sensations in their bodies, to feel what their bodies are feeling. And so for those who do deal with chronic pain, for those who have a sense of disconnection or discomfort when it comes to inhabiting their bodies, I would see if you can find just one part of your body. It doesn't have to be the whole body. It could be your pinky, that you can feel a sense of aliveness, a sense of beingness, a sense of presence, and you can just focus your presence on that particular part. And again, I love bite size, I love small steps. And I think that sometimes it can feel really lofty to be like, oh, pleasure, the whole body. Well, I can't do that because my back is hurting. So that means, so if your back is hurting, okay, that's fine. Accept that if you'd like. But what about your feet? What are your feet doing? Can you feel sensation in your feet? Can you feel groundedness underneath your feet? What sensations do you feel under your feet? Even just getting a sense of curiosity about what sensations you have in different parts of your body, your elbow, the tip of your nose, the tip of your tongue, bringing in sensation, like maybe you can taste something to activate those senses. Maybe you can smell something to activate those senses. I think that, again, this is a practice. I feel like I'm a little bit more good at stuff like this because like this is literally my work. So it's really easy for me to talk about it, but the more that you begin to have this as a practice, the easier it will be for you to sort of automatically like, okay, I'm feeling a little disconnected. Let me drink some water. And as I'm drinking that water, not guzzling it down, but like feeling the liquid sliding down your throat, feeling your belly, and like feeling the sensations that come up within your body as you're being hydrated. You can do the same thing with breath. You can do the same things with standing. You can do the same thing with anything. Our bodies are magical vessels of pleasure. Our bodies are primed for pleasure. That's the whole reason why we have bodies and senses, you know? It's for us to feel and experience and explore those feelings and those experiences. So I believe, again, it's our birthright to explore that and to really allow our bodies to speak to us and to listen.
I love that. And I love the idea just of being curious. That's such an important word, and questioning and always wanting to be present in yourself in whatever form you might be and not judging that state, because we're always flowing through different states of physicality and being okay with that not normal state. So
yeah. I think one interesting thing that I think is really fun to explore, because, you know, we're talking about pleasure here. And I think as we're having this conversation about pleasure, it's really easy to be like, okay, pleasure can only be done within these very ideal situations where the kids are asleep, the candles are lit, I have no more work, my email inbox is like completely empty. Now I can experience pleasure. I would like for people to explore experiencing pleasure within the chaos, within the frenzy, within like traffic. I like to use traffic as like one of those things that nobody likes to be stuck in traffic. Nobody likes to be stuck in traffic. Anyone who is in traffic wants to jump out of their skin with their car so that they can get out of it. And so the next time you find yourself in an experience that you're like, oh, I don't want to be here, or gosh, this is taking too long, breathe and see if you can experience pleasure even in those moments. And it may not feel like a multi-orgasmic experience. It may not feel like I'm a huge pastry fan. I love pastries and baked goods. So whenever I talk about pleasure, I'm always thinking about chocolate cake. It may not feel like you're eating a chocolate cake, right? But there are nuances to pleasure. There are spectrums of pleasure that we can access. And the more that we like give ourselves the space to be like, okay, so I'm sitting in traffic, this sucks, but is there pleasure even here? And to just be curious and see, maybe there isn't, but I'm willing to bet that there is.
I love, yes. And it's like that removes the pressure and allows you to just be where you are and enjoy that fully.
Yes. The situation, the environment doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to experience feeling good in your body.
Thank you so much. I needed that too on a personal level. So thank you so much. Yeah, because you think everything needs to be aligned, but there's so much going on right now in this world that it will never feel non-chaotic, no matter what. Politically, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anywho, but so goody, we're gonna go to you. Are you ready? Okay, So we're going to talk about sensuality versus sexuality, because I
Yes.
feel like sensuality is a term, it's kind of a misunderstood concept. And people really, there is not a lot of understanding between the two. So maybe we could speak to what sensuality is and how it relates to holistic pleasure.
So I'm always talking about sensuality versus sexuality. I'm very much a hypersensual person. So when I'm talking about sensuality, I'm talking about living, experiencing non-sexual pleasure through all 5 of the senses. So sight, smell, taste, touch, and sound. And I get asked a lot, how can I live more sensually? Evian gave a great example of taking a sip of water and feeling it following it down. That is an amazing example of the simplest, most immediate way that we can access a sensual concentration for ourselves. The exercise that I like to give people is a shadow shower, is what I call it. So it's a shower in your bathroom, door closed, completely dark, no candles, no music. Because your eyes will adjust, right, to the darkness. You know where everything is in your bathroom. You know where everything is on your body. And what happens is you get in touch with your body and your skin in a different way, because you have to touch yourself differently to see if that part is clean, if that part has soap on it still, or whatever's going on. And it's not necessarily a sexual exploration, but you are caring for the body that you're in. You're cleansing the body that you're in. And what happens too is it's kind of cathartic, because all you hear, because acoustics are, right? Everyone has a record deal in the bathroom. You can, you hear the water, you hear your breathing, and it's just like a grounding exercise. Like it's sight, because there is none, right? Your eyes adjust in that darkness. You have the soap or the body wash or whatever's going on in that way, or a bath bomb from some, a good Kush Queen bath bomb, right? So you have that, or you're tasting even, because like the water, sometimes like rinse the water around and you just kind of, it has a taste aspect, and the sound and the touch. And so you're engaging all of your senses in a non-sexual way that you have to exhibit care for yourself. You have to extend grace to yourself. You have to listen to yourself. You have to touch yourself, and you kind of connect in a way that is a hypersensual way. You'll never bathe the same again. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't take dark showers every day, if you don't take shadow showers every day, for me, that is my pleasure center. That is how I refocus. That is how I ground within the chaos, right? Because it's just those simple types of things for me. A favorite food that you like, or a perfume. I tell you, I have a pair of pajamas in every color because I love how they feel on my skin. You know what I'm saying? Simple, like it's real small. Your sheets. You know what I'm saying? Go to Ross or somewhere and get the 1,000-count sheets on sale for $10. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to find, they may not match nothing else in your room, but they were on sale, they are luxury, and you are providing it for yourself. Give yourself the gift of that grace, right? Even the types of soaps you use, the lotions you use, the body oils, hair products. I've been natural. I don't know if you guys understand the concept of natural hair, but I've been natural 20 years. We didn't have products or meetups or conferences or any of the things that the natural girls have now, right? And so I'm used to using certain products. When I switched to natural products, I didn't like how some of them smell. I won't use them because of the way they smell. They may be great for my hair, but I don't like how they smell. And you smell your hair all day, right? So pay attention to the way, your deodorant, your toothpaste. Pay attention to the way you care for yourself. Why do you buy that toothpaste? Do you buy it because that's what you always brushed your teeth with as a child? Do you buy it because it was on sale? Did you have a coupon? Why do you buy it? If you buy it because you enjoy it, then keep buying it. Question everything. And you can give yourselves little pleasures in life. Non-sexual pleasures, sensual pleasures that allow you, again, if you're living sensually through all 5 of those senses, and then connect to sexual acts or sexuality or sexual pleasures, you're going to experience those sexual pleasures through all 5 of your senses. So you're going to pay attention to the way your partner's skin feels in your mouth, the weight of their genitals on your tongue, the firmness, the hardness, the rhythm, the stroke, the angle, the position, the way they exhale when you do something they like. All of those things are going to layer your pleasure, right? Because your regular existence is so pleasure filled. You don't have to wait till you have time. You're in thrive mode now. You don't have to survive. You're giving yourself those little pleasures all day, little simple, creating a normalcy of it, right? So then when it's time to engage, even if it's in sexuality with yourself, when it's time to engage in sex, you experience it on 5 different levels. And who wouldn't want that? I can't think of enough.
No one here, that's for sure.
Yeah. And again, the permission, the concept, like I'm loving how all of us are just kind of weaving in similar themes coming from different disciplines. And it's, do I give myself permission to take the shower and bask in it and honor myself in this moment? Because I know that it will benefit me and it feels good in this moment.
And it's really a different perspective.
Oh, go ahead.
That's really all I wanted to share. It's just like really changing your lens and thinking about every opportunity is an opportunity to do it differently and to bring sensuality and pleasure into your life everywhere. So I love that concept.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we hear, and I think it's even been said within this this panel today, the concept of prioritize your pleasure. And, you know, words can be strung together and said so frequently that we don't actually like interrogate, what does that actually mean? Not just as a concept, but what does that actually mean for me? And I loved everything that Goody said, literally everything that you said, girl. But like what I loved about that in particular is that she just gave us, as Colin said, a masterclass on sensuality, and in particular, a masterclass on prioritizing your pleasure, what that looks like on a daily practice, like as a daily practice. It's like your toothpaste, it's your toilet roll, it's the clothes that you put on your back, it is the food that you put in your belly, it's the people that you speak to. I mean, let's talk about that, you know, like pleasure isn't just about the things that we can put into or onto our bodies. It's about where we put our bodies, who we allow inside of our bodies, who we allow to share our bodies. Like this is what prioritizing pleasure looks like. And I mean, it really does start from the toothpaste, the toilet roll, all the other things that you said, and it goes beyond that, right? Like one of the biggest tasks that I love to give my clients is like, look around your home. What part of your home or your room needs more pleasure? What part of your home needs more sensual activation? What needs to be added in and what needs to be taken away to have your senses activated within your home? That right there, like I know that like I need to have house plants in my house. And it's not just because I love my little plant babies. It's because I love the way that it looks. I love that I can look at any corner of my room and my sense of sight is activated through all the different shapes and textures and heights and different shades of greens that I see in my home. So like when we talk about prioritizing pleasure, we're not just talking about this nebulous idea. It's like, you can do this. And it's very, very simple. It's not about like these grand gestures of getting pedicures and going to the spa for 14 hours. I mean, that would be nice, but like, especially in this time that we live in, this is the perfect time for you to begin practicing prioritizing your pleasure, because so many things have been stripped down that we are kind of like at this stage in our lives where, you know, we don't have very many distractions.
Yeah, we're rebuilding what that looks like for us. And it doesn't have to be orgasms. I know somebody was thinking, when Evian was talking about being in traffic, somebody was thinking, oh, I need to keep a vibrator in my glove box. Or I need a pocket pussy in my glove box. You do not. Do not be trying to orgasm in traffic.
Not do that.
Because you're going to have, like, don't do it. That's not what we're talking about. And maybe at a red light. No, I'm playing. But like,
night, Goody, damn it. What the hell was I going to do when we left?
You in New York, you don't drive.
All right, so instead of sparking the new Marie Kondo method, we're not sparking joy, we're sparking pleasure. And
Correct.
Yes.
That is our homework for tonight.
Yes.
I want to
Heavy
say
on that.
Tiffany's aesthetic in her, like, I'm like, for me, the pleasure that I'm finding right now is Tiffany's aesthetic in her house. Like
Same.
these beams. I'm an HGTV hoe. Okay, so these beams, honey, this recessed lighting, and it's like, it's very peacefully lit. Like, it's very, like, I just want to go to your house and sit on your couch. Like,
Well, I would love to host you. If you find yourself in the PNW, call me, I'll hook you up. But I think that's really important, is to really think about, you know, this is about holistic pleasure. And I do spend a lot of time like setting my house up, you know, in ways that bring me pleasure. You know, talking about plants. I have this one plant named Susan, and, you know, she just brings me so much joy. And I think that's one thing that we do overlook sometimes, is that pleasure has to be in these certain ways, and it doesn't. You know, it can be the smallest things that we even overlook. You know, there are probably lots of things that are bringing pleasure to you that you don't even think of as pleasure. You know, taking that simple sip of water and really feeling restored or nourished, and giving yourself these mental clues to think, oh, that is providing me pleasure in a way I'm just not thinking of it. It's super easy to overlook.
I love that. So it's like, Colin, go.
I was just going to say, no, that's making me think about how Mercury, the messenger planet, is currently in Scorpio right now. It will retrograde in Scorpio on October 13th until the afternoon of Election Day. I kid you not. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it moves direct. But it's making me think about how all these external stimuli related to pleasure signals imagination. And Mexican essayist Octavio Paz wrote in his book, The Double Flame, he was, I'm such a Gemini geek. I'm like, I have to read about this to understand it. Okay? But what he wrote was that the imagination is the central organizing agent of desire. So when we think about it, what is it about the toothpaste that Goody recommended? What is it about Evian's quality of what part of your house needs more love? What is it about Tiffany's plant that remind the mind, and get us into the imagination space? Because the beauty of us being human beings, and this is for people who have chronic illness as well, is we are the only animals that can have repetitive, blissful, extraordinary orgasms, never touch another human being, just because we imagined it. And our imagination is not on lockdown during COVID. And so we want to know, with Mercury and Scorpio, how can I imagine bigger? What is it about pleasure that reminds the mind of my core erotic blueprint? What are my erotic cornerstones? And I think we could really take our narrative to beautiful places. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes. So it's your astrological house, it's your home that you live in, and your physical body.
Yes, everything. And then how do those external stimuli signal and catalyze the imagination rhythm nation, right? Like, where are we going? You know, Esther Perel says that sex is not a thing that we do, but it's a place we go. Where do we go when we're in sex, and who do we bring as ourselves in that quality of aliveness because we imagined it beforehand? And that's radiance, right? That's when somebody walks in and they just have a certain je ne sais quoi, you know, they just have that quality of full aliveness, I think, because they allow their imagination to give a receptivity and a proactive initiation, of course, of pleasure given and received.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant, all of you. So we're closing so soon that I could talk for hours to all of you, but we're going to move into some rapid fire questions. So I want all of our beautiful panelists to just give a word or a phrase, what comes to mind. So on the topic of holistic pleasure and what brings you it, what brings you holistic, true, beautiful pleasure? What's one thing that is your go-to? Feel good.
Water.
Water.
Slippers.
Bloopers?
No, slippers.
Flipper. I heard bloopers. I'm like, yes.
For reals every day.
Yeah.
Man, this is hard.
You know, I gotta keep it real. You know, smoking a fresh joint.
Yeah.
You know, get out of your body, or get out of your mind as well. You know.
Gosh, there's so many things. I'll say, you know, I love being in robes. I've really upped my robe game, my caftan game during this quarantine situation. Yeah, it's that.
It's that. Is there a brand you love for our friends watching?
Oh goodness, no. I mean, I get them in so many places. I'm like at this place where I'm just like, I want to try that one and that one and that one. So I'm compiling information, so I'll get back to you on what's
perfect.
the best one.
You'll beta test and we'll get your fave.
Yes.
Amazing. All right, so we got everyone. What about you, Colin?
I love to dance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I love to do it. Yeah.
And I'll say a bathtub for me. My bath every night is like my ritual every single solitary night before bed, in case anybody was wondering.
Love it. Yes.
What is your love language? And if anyone needs the definition of that, let me know. But
The Gary Chapman book?
yeah.
You know the
Like,
book.
I
Don't ask. You know
Yeah.
the book.
I was like, maybe there's a remix. I was like, we're talking about physical touch, right?
You're like a living, reading rainbow. You know the book.
You read that book 10 years ago.
Rainbow. Okay. Well, now, Goody, you go first. What's your love language,
Words
honey?
of affirmation.
Oh, really? I would have said physical touch for you because of sensuality. No, physical.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I need to know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same, Goody. Affirmations for me as well. Tell me I'm a good boy.
Right. I don't want to hear I love you. I want to know why you love me.
Every day, though, you know.
Yes, right, like right now.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I'm in a weird space where I feel like I took the test before like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I feel like my love language has changed, but I don't know if it's changed because I want it to change or if it's actually changed. So I'll just give the answer that I got 12 years ago, which is quality time. But I think that words of affirmation and gift giving, I don't know it. I always get tripped up. So
See, I'm gonna say something about these love languages when everybody says theirs. I'm gonna chime in on what you.
Oh
just
yes,
said.
please. I want to hear.
And somebody just posted that there's an expanded version. So thank you for that. Okay. I know. So we did.
Does that mean that there's more love languages than 5?
Maybe. I didn't even click on it yet, but it is there. So thank you, Jesse R, for posting an addendum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I think
Appendices.
I think I'm acts of service because yes, I'm a Gemini and an air sign, so I'm like, tell me, right? But now I'm just like, put it in writing, fucking prove it. Let me see. Put up or shut up. All right. So I like when people can operationalize it at this point because we talk all day. Like, I don't care. I want to know, I want to see the tangible effects of that one. That's where I go. Yeah.
That's
For
my
me,
second one.
Okay. Yeah, the ranking. Right. Yeah.
Did everybody say theirs? Tiffany and Katie?
Oh, no.
Mine's affirmation.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, you did that. You said that.
I think mine is either quality time or words of affirmation. But what I've tried to do recently, because I've been told I'm very hard to read, is if I'm having a good time with somebody and if I like somebody in any sort of way, I tell them. Even if I think it feels weird or if they're gonna be like, oh God, you're clingy or anything. It's just if I'm having a good time or if I like you or if I think you're intelligent or if I think you're great or if I think you're beautiful, I tell them now. I don't hold it in. It doesn't make me any less good. It doesn't make me, just tell them you're having a good time. Tell them they're great.
Yes.
Tiffany. You can't hide just because your lights are off.
I know. I'm already like, oh, this lighting. This
It looks great. It looks like a warm hug. Like I really want to just like climb into the.
Well, thank you. Affirmation, 100%.
So, Missy, what about you? You're muted, hon. You're muted.
Oh.
How did that happen? Words of affirmation and physical touch. I would say it's like a duo.
Yeah.
Definitely need the words. But tell me what you got, Gertie.
believe the love languages. It's how we receive the message that we're loved and valued and appreciated, but it's also how we convey it to others. So Katie, when you're saying affirmations is one of yours, giving affirmations is going to be a way that you express it as well. But what Evian was saying, like she took it 12 years ago and she, you know, she thinks it's changed. Honestly, it changes just like your palate changes. So every year on my birthday, I retake it, because that reminds me to take it because it's my birthday, right? So take it every year. It evolves just like you do, and it changes based on how those needs are met. So mine is words of affirmation. So if I'm getting words of affirmation from my partner specifically, because I don't care about the rest of the world in real life, but if my partner is giving me the words of affirmation that I need, then another love language need is going to arise because that tank is full. So it ebbs and flows, it changes, it evolves just like we holistically, just like we do. So you want to revisit it on a regular basis. I say annually. You know, the astrologer can tell you more about that part, but I definitely think that, you know, an annual reassessment, because we're always, you know, thinking and re-evolving and all of that. Every year, baby, every year retake it. Because 12 years ago, are you the same person you were 12 years ago?
I'm not the same person I was
Yesterday.
2 days ago.
Right. So you have to, so you see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
You know, it's definitely an evolutionary thing. It evolves with us. Just like, you know, I wouldn't eat Brussels sprouts 10 years ago, but now I love Brussels sprouts. You know what I'm saying? So like, just like your palate changes, your aesthetic changes, you know, all of those things, your love languages change too. That's all I wanted to say when we talk about that. Do that shit regularly.
Blew my mind. Wow. It's so true. Because with, and even with different partners that fill different needs, and then you fill the needs within yourself. Maybe I don't need words of affirmation because I actually feel really full of that for myself.
Yes.
That's so cool. We have 2 more questions, but I want to announce the winner first, just in case, for the grand prize of Womanizer products, Lovers products, Kush Queen products, and Goodies hoodies. The best addition to the panel, to the group and the panel. Like, all of us are amazing. So it is Mia McLaughlin. Yay, Mia!
Woohoo!
Yay, Mia! We love you and we're so excited.
Enjoy.
Perfect. Okay, so Mia, congratulations. You have an amazing bundle coming your way. We'll be contacting you. Yay, Mia!
Oh my God.
She's excited. OMG.
So we have 2 more questions in the rapid fire because I want to be conscious of everyone's time. What song best describes your sex life?
I had a major LOL at this question.
My favorite.
And my colleagues wanted me to put WAP, but I just wasn't feeling WAPy at the moment. I am recovering from a surgery.
Whoppy.
So I'm going to go with sexual healing because I am healing in lots of different ways and need to just bless that upon my body.
Yes.
I respect that and I love that answer.
Yes.
Go on, Colin.
You look like you're ready.
Oh, I was pointing to somebody. You know what? I'm gonna actually do another Aries Marvin Gaye, but no, I'm doing Mariah Carey's Fantasy with Old Dirty Bastard remix. I love
Okay.
the remix. It's playful, it's fun, it's like cheeky and flirty, and it's got a great beat, and it just seems like it's fun. Like that's probably the song of my sex life. It's fun.
Love.
I'm gonna say The Little Things by India Ari.
I love that song.
I love that song. It makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel beautiful. It makes me feel peaceful. And I really think that the way my love life is definitely indicative and representative of that.
Who didn't go, Evian?
So I can't think of a song, but I've been listening to a lot of Alice Coltrane, and I feel like where I'm at with my own healing journey right now is very transcendent and opening new levels and layers of pleasure and healing and joy and sexuality and identity. So anything by Alice Coltrane.
Beautiful. Katie?
My colleagues and partner wanted me to say WAP too. I couldn't do it. It's not me. So polar side, La Vie en Rose.
Oh,
Listen, hold me fast.
That's a good one.
Beautiful.
Jay-Z, Big Pimpin'.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Great. All right, moving on. Mine is Genie in a Bottle because I feel like I'm in an incubation period right now.
Oh my God. That's so crazy. I was taking my dog out before we started this panel, and someone was driving past in my back, like not in my backyard, but on the road next to my backyard, and they were blasting Genie in a Bottle. And I had this moment of being like, God, I wish I could just like spend one day in that era. Like I would just love it. I just miss it so much. But anyway,
and maybe that's why craving nostalgia right now or something.
Yeah.
In the healing process. That's a great, I didn't even think about that. That's great. All right, last question, my beautiful friends. What is your favorite Lovers product?
Gun oil.
Which one?
Gun oil, baby. The silicone lube. I love a gun oil. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna also keep it classic. You know, magic wand, but make it the plus version.
Yeah.
Yes.
Goodness gracious. I'll go last.
I was trying fast.
All right, I'll say the We Vibe Touch is my fave, like ride or die. We'll always use it forever and ever.
Amazing. I feel like it's a cliche if I say something from my own brand.
There are no rules here. That's what we learned tonight.
No rules.
I will just ride or die. I rotate between Womanizer Premium and the We Vibe Wand if I want pleasure air stimulation or if I want really rumbly deep vibes. 2 different orgasms, so you can layer that stuff.
Yes, the We Vibe.
Nice.
Love.
Woo.
Perfect. Did everyone go? Goody, did you go?
I didn't go yet. I really like the little, I don't know the name of it. I was trying to look through my email to figure out the name of the toy, and it's just escaping me. But it's the pink U-shaped thing.
What is it, Tiana? I feel like Tiana would know.
It's the pink U-shaped joint. I love it.
Okay, we'll get back to we'll mail everybody.
You wear it
Yeah,
wear
like I can't.
internally and like is it a G-spot?
It looks like this.
Oh. All right, we'll post that. I love that though. Send us that picture.
I think I gave it to the I sent a I had a Google Doc that I just sent y'all the stuff in, so y'all have it. But yeah, no, I have like a better picture. So these are not, but like it's the pink thing in my hand.
Satisfier?
I don't think
Satisfier partner. We have some amazing knowledge in the chat.
Yeah, I'm saying I love this thing here.
Perfect.
Because it's never like the box and everything is gone. Like we use it all the time. Ain't no box. So I don't know what it's called. That's how much I love it. I don't even know the name of it.
we'll get, okay, we're going to definitely get that. And by the way, I know we're over a little bit, but I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined you. As a thank you, you get 20% off of your next purchase at Lovers in-store and online with code HOLISTIC20. And we'll do a follow-up so you have that, but it's HOLISTIC20. And we'll put that in the chat. And I am so honored to this was one of the best conversations I've had in so long. And I wish we were in person and hugging, but thank you to our amazing, amazing panelists, Goody, Katie, Colin, Evian, Tiff. I love you all. You're amazing.
And thank you.
Thank you, Missy. You were a wonderful moderator.
Yeah,
You were truly.
Thank you so much. You made it easy. This was so wonderful, and you were so generous and brilliant. And everyone that watched, thank you for investing in your pleasure.
Yes.
And we have homework. We have a book club. We have a shower. We have the question, what feels good today? We're going to book sessions with everybody. We're buying products from Womanizer and Kush Queen. And yeah, I want to just thank you so, so much, everybody. This was so special.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Thank you for having me. So much fun. Make sure you
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
You too, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.